The original melanated people of this planet, who were once the perfect picture of health, are now leading in nearly every preventable disease globally. Our indigenous foods and cultural practices kept us 95% disease-free. Over time, as we adopted a foreign dietary lifestyle, our physical and mental health severely declined. I gathered over 15 years of experience as a registered nurse and African holistic practitioner to address this complex challenge in my new book, High Vibration Nutrition. This is a simple guide to healing through our culture and flourishing in wellness once again. Get the High Vibration Nutrition book by Banaset Kind Sekmet at Amazon. Also, get limited edition autographed copies of the book at kemeticwellness.com. Peace, Chem family. It's me, Banaset, your African holistic health nurse for Kemetic Wellness, and I am back with another video. Today we're talking about how to teach your children African spirituality, even if you are still learning. If you're like many of us who are on a spiritual journey, you probably did not grow up learning about African spirituality. Most of us grew up in religious families, usually Christian, sometimes Muslim, where the focus was on going to church and conducting yourself according to that religion. The focus was not necessarily on self-discovery, self-mastery, developing your skills and talents, and living your purpose. A lot of people who grew up in religion never think about the fact that they have a specific purpose. And even if they do think about this, they don't know what their purpose is. But for those of us who have embarked on a spiritual journey, you're either discovering your purpose or you want to discover your purpose. Or you know exactly what your purpose is and you are living it out. And you were able to come to this understanding by seeking out knowledge on African spirituality and African culture, because deep down, you know, just like we know here at Kemetic Wellness, that your healing is in your culture. Your healing is in your culture. And if you're an intelligent person, you're going to want to pass the knowledge of your culture onto your children, because you know how much farther you would have been in your life had you had this knowledge at an early age. So in this video, I'm going to break down to you how to teach your children about African spirituality, even if you're still learning. And it's only going to take me a few minutes to do this. So if you don't have a few minutes to spare, just click off this video and continue scrolling through clips on relationship podcasts, arguing about who's a high value man and who's a high value woman, and get comfortable watching your children grow up behind in life, trying to figure out why they're here with no direction, no purpose, and as casualties of white supremacy. So let's talk about how to teach your children about Kemetic spirituality, even if you are still learning. Now, I started doing this with my nephew while I was going through my own initiation in the Kemetic spiritual system, and I'm going to share some of the things I did with him. When my nephew was still a toddler, I moved into my family house, and part of the reason I did that was because I wanted to be a part of raising him. I knew that I had cultivated certain knowledge that no one else in my family had, and I wanted him to have access to it. Unfortunately, because of ignorant family behavior, I was forced to leave that environment and to be away from him. But while I was there, these are some of the things I did that helped him. It helped him to develop emotional intelligence. to be a very inquisitive child, to be thoughtful, and even to be well behaved. So, one of my favorite quotes on spirituality is by Professor James Smalls. He's one of my favorite historians. And he says, spirituality guides your life, culture informs your life. Culture is your primary educational system. It gives you your values, your interests, and your principles. If you are practicing the culture of those who practice genocide against you, then you will commit genocide against yourself. In order to properly practice traditional African spirituality and to teach your children, you have to know the culture and the history of African people. Okay, if you're practicing Kemetic spirituality, that means not just learning about ancient Kemet, but you need to have an understanding of African history overall. Because African spirituality is simply the spiritual practices of African people. Okay, so you cannot properly practice African spirituality without knowing African history. Otherwise, you're just going to be doing rituals with no real purpose or foundation. So, African history and African spirituality go hand in hand. They go together real bad. Okay. So, if you want to teach your children Kemetic spirituality, you have to study the history of ancient Kemet and ancient Africa. And you have to do it from an African-centered perspective. That means learning from our own African scholars. Okay. You have to study the culture and the language. So essentially, that means you have to be learning it yourself in order to teach your children. You can't teach what you don't know. Okay. And whatever it is that you learn, you have to put it into practice. Because that is how children learn. Children learn by watching, they learn by playing, and by experience. So they are modeling what you do. Okay, they don't learn by you telling them. You can't do one thing and then tell your children this is what you need to do and think that they're going to be proficient. Okay, they're naturally going to mimic whatever it is that you do. So as you learn, take your kids along with you through the process because they're also going to learn. Okay? This is why I've been saying on the channel that it's important to take classes. Okay, it's important to take classes. Not only do you begin to learn and become a part of a new community, like what we're doing in the Alchemy of Black Healing, you're creating a new reality for your children as well. So every class that you take becomes a part of your children's knowledge base. So as you're taking Neteru classes, your children may be sitting in class, coloring or reading, but they're also soaking up that information. You may not think that they are listening, but they are. This is how children learn. So I remember when I was studying Neteru, my nephew used to write the glyphs along with me. So he used to sit with me. He would come in the room because he just wanted to talk to Auntie. Okay. He just wanted to be around me. So he would see what I was doing. And as we're talking and as I'm writing, he's also writing along with me. Okay. Because he just wanted to be around me. So he was imitating me. That's how kids learn. Okay. So allow them to be in your presence when you are learning and when you're practicing. Take them along with you. So these are some of the things that you want to take your children along with you while you're doing. Okay. The first one is Kemetic yoga practice. Kemetic yoga. So take them along with you when you go to your classes. When you're doing your meditation and your breath work, let them sit with you while you're doing it. Just let them be in your presence while you're doing it. If you're going to a specific class, your teachers may allow for your children to be there. A lot of times they do. And if you're doing your own Kemetic yoga practice at home, where you're doing your meditation, your breath work, even a very small child, they're going to see what you're doing and they will imitate you just by being in your presence. So my nephew would be with me when I practiced Womb Yoga dance, when I did my meditation and when I did my breath work. And we did a lot of that together. We used to dance together. Um, and when I teach classes, a lot of times my students will bring their children along with them. Okay, so Kemetic yoga practice, that's one of the things you can do when you're going to classes that's going to begin to teach children Kemetic spirituality. Okay. Another thing is the Manchu arts. That's another class that you can take. And as you're taking that class, you bring your kids along with you. Okay, the Manchu arts. So Manchu is an African combat and self-defense art system. Okay, not martial arts. Okay, not martial arts. That comes from a different European worldview. Okay, find out those in your area who are teaching the African combat arts. This is a very important skill for your kids to learn. Okay, they're going to learn certain skills in physical and spiritual warfare that prepare them for the life that they're going to have. Okay, look up capoeira classes near you. Okay, I found recently a brother here on YouTube who teaches the African Manchu arts. His name is Dojo Life. Dojo Life. I haven't personally taken classes with him. I've just seen, his work on social media. Another type of class that you can take your kids to, or activity you can do with your kids, is African dance class. Okay. African dance is a very intricate part of African spirituality. It's not just a performance or entertainment for us. Dance itself is a prayer. Okay, it's a moving meditation, it's a ritual, and it's an ancestral communication. It's a very, very important form of spiritual communication and a channel of spiritual expression for your children. It helps them to raise their self-esteem. It helps them to release negative emotions and also express positive emotions and feel connected to their bodies. So while you go to your African dance class, bring your kids along with you. Okay. Another one is Kemetic Reiki. Kemetic Reiki. When you are doing your Kemetic Reiki palm therapy, meaning you're doing your own self-healing on your physical body, allow them to be in your company. And you can guide them on how to do it on themselves so they begin to practice self-awareness and self-healing techniques. This is going to help your kids know how to calm themselves and how to go within. So they will learn at a very early age how to have inner peace, what to do when they're hurt, when they're angry, when they are sad, okay, rather than lashing out and being out of control. You teach them what to do with their emotions, okay? So you can also practice this on them when they're hurt, when they're very upset. You can use the Kemetic Reiki palm therapy. You can use crystals on them and teach them the names. That's another thing I used to love doing with my nephew is I would teach him the names of the crystals because he would see me using them. And he was very intrigued. He loved the crystals. And so I would teach him what they are and what they're for. And he started to learn. Okay. Let your kids play with the crystals along with you, and let them help you in cleansing the crystals, charging the crystals. Teach them the names, teach them why you use them. Okay, so as you practice, your children are also practicing with you. Okay. Another thing that you can do with your children is pray with them. Pray with them. Let them hear you praying. Let them hear you even when you are alone, because you know you're never really alone with children around, but um, let them hear you praying. Okay? When they hear how you pray, they will also learn to pray like you. This is the same way that you learned how to pray to Jesus if you grew up in a Christian family. Okay, it's because that's what everybody else did around you. So you pray, and then ask them to pray sometimes. A lot of times kids will want to do the prayers themselves. So teach them short prayers. Okay, teach them a short African prayer, a short Kemetic prayer, and allow them to join in. Allow them to be in your company when you're at your altar sometimes. Yeah. Another thing that we do is the opening of the way. It's prayer that we usually use for a ritual or a ceremony to call in the elevated spirits, right? And allow your children to practice them with you. I was talking with one of my Vaseki sisters about this particular topic because I got the question in one of my previous YouTube videos in the comments. How do you teach your children about African spirituality, about Kemetic spirituality? So I brought it up to my community, and she was telling me how all of her children know how to do the opening of the way on their own. Okay. So as you're doing it, your kids are watching you and they're going to practice. They'll learn to do it. Okay. So pray with them. Another thing you can do is music. Okay. Music. This is such a great way for children to learn. When I listen to my mom, for example, whenever she gets upset, or even when she's teaching my nephew, right? When she would teach my nephew, she does a lot of things through songs. And there's certain songs that you heard as a child that never leave you. They literally never leave you. You can remember them and you can recall them because those things stick in your subconscious mind. Music has a way of allowing words to stay in your subconscious mind. So a lot of those church songs that my mother learned growing up, she can sing them to this day easily. Okay. And you can too. I'm quite sure that you can recall some of the songs that you learned growing up. So you want to learn some Kemetic chants. Okay. One of my favorite ones from the Raseki Arts Temple is Ankh Ujasanev. So we'll sing Ankh Ujasanev, Ankh Ujasanev, Ankh Ujasanev, Ankh Ujasanev, Ankh Ujasanev. Okay? That's a quick one. And you say it over and over. It's easy for kids to get it and to learn. And as you learn the meaning of these words, you can teach your children the meaning as well. So this is one of the ways that you teach your children Kemetic spirituality through song, through chants. Raseki Arts Temple also has 4 different albums of really beautiful Kemetic songs. Really beautiful. And they're all kid appropriate. Okay. That's another thing that I love about African culture, African spirituality. You can sing music and make music that you don't have to hide from your children, okay, when you're singing it, because it's not filthy. You know, it's music that enriches the spirit. It's intelligent music. Okay. Okay? And it's uplifting. And it feels good. It's good to sing it. It makes you feel good when you sing these songs, when you do these chants. Okay, so you can find the Raseki Arts Temple albums on raseki.bandcamp.com. Okay, they have 4 albums and they're really great. You can also find some more music by the Temple of Anu. They have a lot of beautiful Kemetic music. Their website is templeofanu.org. Templeofanu.org. And they have 4 albums as well. Beautiful chants, beautiful music. Okay, play the music at home, sing it along with your children. This is one of the ways that you can teach your children Kemetic spirituality. Now, there are also some contemporary artists who make very nice music as well. And 2 of my favorites, they're actually a couple, they're a married couple, and they have some of their music here on YouTube as well. That would be Free Soul and Lava. Free Soul and Lava. If you go into the search bar on YouTube and you type Ankh Uja Seneb song, you're going to find their song together. So it's another take on that very popular phrase coming from ancient Kemet, Ankh Uja Seneb, which literally means life, prosperity, and health. It's an affirmation of life, prosperity, and health. Okay, it's such a beautiful song. And I've talked about Lava in my comment section before. I have her recent album, which is it's a no skip album. It's such a beautiful album, and it's contemporary. So you like the stuff that got the hot beats on it, the lingo that we used to in 2025. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. So look them up. Free Soul is spelled FR, and the EE is like the number 3. So FR33SOL, that's Free Soul. And Lava is spelled LAAVA. Okay, look their music up, it's excellent. Once you start to look into that music, you'll find other music. You'll find other music. Okay. Another thing that you can do with your children to help them learn and to teach them about Kemetic spirituality, African spirituality, is allow them to be with you when you are preparing your food. Yes, allow them to be with you and to assist when you are preparing that good vegan food, the juices. Even though not everybody who practices African spirituality or Kemetic spirituality is a vegan, uh, pretty much everyone that I know understands plant-based nutrition. So whether their nutritional palette is completely vegan, it's usually plant-based. Okay. So in African spirituality, we don't separate health. Okay, we don't separate health. That's one thing that I notice a lot with people who are very religious. Most of them have a very poor value when it comes to health. They lack information on health, holistic health. But in African spirituality, that is a part of your work. That's a part of your spiritual work because your physical body houses your spirit. If you are sick, it's going to put you in a low vibration. So taking care of your physical body is a part of spirituality. So bring your children with you, have your children with you when you're preparing your vegan food, your juices. Let them help you and let them taste. Okay, let them taste. I know that kids can be very finicky, but um, of course they're going to be curious seeing whatever it is that you're doing. So don't force them. Don't try to force kids into eating certain things. Just offer. Just offer. Put it in their proximity so that they become familiar with it. So when my nephew was a baby, right, and this was even before I moved into my family house, and he would come visit me, I would only feed him healthy food. I would only feed him healthy food. So I would have strawberries and grapes and avocado and sweet potato. Okay. Things that taste nice to children. It's nice to eat, but it's also really clean. I never gave him junk food or candy because I wanted him to be healthy. I wanted him to know what it feels like to feel good in his body. Understand? This is a really huge part of spirituality, your respect for your health and your body. Okay, so this is one of the ways that you can teach your children about Kemetic spirituality, African spirituality, even if you're still learning. Okay? That's one of the things that I love the most about Kemetic spirituality is that it's very health focused. All right. So the way that you care for your physical body, the foods that you eat, it's going to teach your children to place a high value on health, which is a part of their spiritual values and their cultural education. Another thing you can do with children is take them to museums. Take them to museums. I can remember a very early age. I think I was about 12 when my mother was going through college at the time, and she took me to MoMA in New York. Okay? So I'm from New York, and we have a museum there called the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I think that's one of the biggest Kemetic exhibits in the United States. I'm not sure exactly, but it's one of the most famous ones that we have in the United States. And my mother had to go there for a class that she was taking, and she took us along with her. I think that's the first time I remember seeing African exhibits, not even really connecting it to ancient Africa or to myself, but I just loved being there and I loved seeing it. And it feels like a full circle moment when I go to MoMA and see those exhibits for myself, actually understanding what they are and my connection to them. So you should be visiting the African educational exhibits in your city. You want to do a Google search to find out which museums are near you that have an Egyptian wing or exhibit near you. Okay, if you practice Kemetic spirituality, okay, find out where these exhibits are located in your city. So you can plan a family trip, take your kids with you, and if you don't know of any in your city, there's a few. The ones that I know mostly are on the East Coast. So, for example, the Shrine of Ma'at in New York City, they do tours at MoMA. Tony Browder, who is another one of my favorite historians, he does regular tours in Washington, D.C., which is a very cool tour. Much of Washington, D.C. is completely copied from ancient Kemet, and we pass through it, or we may see images and we don't even know that that's what it is. So that tour really explains those things and gives you a good background on Kemetic history and Kemetic spirituality. You can also do tours to Egypt, and I would recommend that you take your children with you if possible. So we have Ashra and Mary Rakwazi. They are a married couple who do wonderful tours to Kemet. They've been doing it for a very long time. They've been doing it for a very long time. You can check them out at kemmunity.com. Okay, kemmunity.com. There are other wonderful teachers doing tours to Kemet as well. You have Sister Brittany Motley. She is a brilliant sister. She's a brilliant sister. And you can find her tours to Egypt at thebizzy.org/Egypt. Okay, it's spelled BIZZYBEE.org/Egypt. Okay. There's another brother by the name of Taki Grant, okay, who does tours to Egypt. It's called, his company is called Akhet Tours, AKHET Tours. And we have a lot of our great African scholars who are still with us today who do excellent tours to Kemet. Queen Afua does tours to Kemet. The Raseki Arts Temple does tours to Kemet. So does the Shrine of Ma'at. So does Kemetic Yoga Skills with Brother Yusur Rahotep. All of these people do tours to Kemet where you're going to learn about the history. You're going to learn about Kemetic spirituality. And every temple and organization has their own way of doing things and their own knowledge to impart. So when you go, take your children with you. Take your children with you. Even if you can't take your children with you, you can take video, you can take pictures and share it with them when you come back. It's an excellent way for them to learn. Okay. So this is one of the ways you can teach your children about Kemetic spirituality, even if you're still learning. Another thing that you can do is raise your children around African art. Okay? Raise your children around African art. It will give them a sense of pride. It will give them a sense of pride in being African. Okay, so you want to have images of African animals like elephants, giraffes, lions, okay, beautiful African birds, African people. Okay, so you can have paintings and artwork of African royalty or African people in their natural environment. I have all of these images in my home, so everything that I tell you is what I do. Also, you want to have African symbols in your home. So you should have an ankh. You see in the background here that I have African statues or totems on the wall. Okay? So you want to have African symbols, an ankh. You can have the Ma'at scales. You can have Adinkara symbols coming out of Ghana. Okay? Learn what these symbols mean and teach them to your children. You also want to have African-centered coloring books. African-centered coloring books. Raseki Arts Temple also has an African-centered coloring book, beautiful images of African people, okay, that you can give to your children. And coloring is also a great way for you to meditate as an adult. So in your downtime, that's something that you can do that your children can watch and do along with you. Another thing is games. Games, okay? So one of the games that I like to play with my nephew is the Wari game. Okay, I don't even know how old this game is. It's an ancient game coming out of Africa. It's spelled Wari, Wari. And there's different names for it as well. That's not the only name, but it's very easy to learn. Okay, and very young children can play, and those who can, they can watch along and begin to learn. It teaches strategic thinking. It teaches patience. It teaches resource management and even conflict resolution. So it's an excellent game. It's excellent. Another game is Aus, AUS. And again, it uses that very popular Kemetic phrase, Ankh Ujasanev. Okay, so Us is spelled A-U-S. This is what it looks like. This is the game. It's spelled A-U-S, right? Which stands for Ankh Ujasanev. So it's actually an acronym. Okay. And as you can see, the phrase on the box is a card game with culture. Okay. It's a wonderful game that is played very similar to Uno. Okay. So instead of Uno, you will be saying oops. Okay. Oops. A-U-S. And it's excellent because it teaches Kemetic symbols. I actually have it open now. So you have a lot of the Kemetic symbols on it. Got this one, pepper. So as you're playing with your kids, you're not only having fun and learning how to be strategic, but you're also learning the Kemetic symbols. Yeah. Okay. And as you learn, you can teach your kids what they are. Okay. So you're teaching them the culture, you're teaching them the spiritual principles, and you're also teaching them the Middle Neter language. Okay. I only have 4 of these in stock. I only have 4 of these left in stock, and I'm not going to be restocking them at this time. So if you want to get them, they're in my YouTube shop. So if you've seen this picture, some of y'all have seen the picture, but you don't know what it is. You've seen this picture or these cards in my YouTube shop. That's what it is. It's a game. It's the Oos game, and it's a really cool game. It's a really, really cool game to play with your family and with your friends, okay, who are also a part of the Kemetic community. How beautiful these are. And some of these are upside down. Yeah. All right. Another thing you can teach your kids to help them learn Kemetic spirituality is the language. The language, okay? So if you're teaching your kids Kemetic spirituality, the best expression of a culture is language, okay? Language. Okay, Kemetic culture and Kemetic spirituality go hand in hand. So speaking of cards, I have another set of cards that teach the Middle Neter, and this is a set that I created myself, okay? And this is what it looks like. You all have probably seen this in my YouTube shop as well. There you go. Beautiful deck. So this is what it looks like. And it teaches Middle Neter. You can see that it's a box that opens from top to bottom like this. And this is what the cards look like. This is what they look like. It's they're not flimsy cards. They're big and they're very thick. They're laminated and they're beautiful. Okay. As you can see, they're also accurate with images that look like the Kemetic people. Okay. On the front, you're gonna see how you see the glyph on the front there, and then on the back it tells you what the image is, and it gives you kind of like you see on the bottom of the card that kind of stick figure. So it shows you how to draw the images. This is what helped my nephew to draw with me, okay, to draw the glyphs with me. I used to bring his pictures and his glyphs that he drew into class, and my teacher was like, oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And he was doing this at 4 or 5 years old. Okay. This is also in the YouTube shop and it's on at kemeticwellness.com. These are Neteru flashcards. So this it's a volume, it's a 3 series volume, okay? Or 3 volume series. Okay. The alphabet, biliterals, and triliterals. So they teach the simple words in Neteru, starting with the alphabet. This is another way to teach your children Kemetic spirituality, even if you are still learning. Okay? Another way is books. Okay, books. So again, Raseki Arts Temple is coming through with some good things. Raseki Arts Temple has great books that teach children about Kemetic spirituality. They have a book called Light as a Feather, and they have another one called I Get Energy from the Sun. And there's simple ways to teach your children about nature and about their relationship to nature and divinity. So Light as a Feather really teaches your children about Ma'at. It's a beautiful book that teaches your children about Ma'at. And you have another book called I Get Energy from the Sun, which is a way of teaching your children about nature and also about Kemetic spirituality, their relationship to divinity, okay, in very simple terms. So, books, read to your children, okay, read to your children. This is how you teach children about Kemetic spirituality, even if you are still learning. Okay. Also, you have lectures. Okay. Again, I was talking to one of my friends about this topic, and shout out to my beautiful sister Jamila. And I asked her what she does to teach her son about Kemetic spirituality. She actually named her son Kemet. And she says, I named him Kemet so that he would always be able to return to himself. And I love that. So she tells me that she plays lectures in the house. She plays lectures in the house. So not just frivolous TV. A lot of y'all have your kids learning about Real Housewives of Atlanta instead of things that's going to actually help them develop in life. Okay, you're going to put your children ahead of the curve when you have them listening to Ashra Kwesi in the house because you're listening to it. Okay? When you have them listening to our great African scholars such as Ashra Kwesi, Tony Browder, Mfundisi Jehutimis, Kaba Kamene, Dr. Sabi, Dr. Laila Africa, Dr. Amos Wilson, Runoko Rashidi. Okay, you need to be listening to these lectures when you're in the house. Your children are going to hear it. They're going to gain so much wisdom just listening to the lectures in the background. And don't think that it's too advanced for them because they're children. It's not. It's not. They'll be interested because you're interested and you're listening to it. And the stuff is very, very interesting for children. Okay. Also, the Hidden Colors series by Tariq Nasheed is a great documentary to play for children as well. That has a lot of information on history, African spirituality, African culture. Okay. And I'm specifically speaking about the Hidden Colors series, not necessarily Tariq Nasheed and whatever else he does on YouTube, but the Hidden Colors series is excellent. Another way you can teach your children Kemetic spirituality is through cartoons. Okay? Cartoons. There's not a whole lot of them, but I did find a few. So there's a company called Black Sands Entertainment. They're here on YouTube and they do have some excellent Kemetic anime cartoons. So search them here on YouTube. They also have a very nice collection of African comic books as well. Okay? African comic books. You want your children to see as many images of themselves as possible. So check out their website. Their website is blacksandsentertainment.com. A cartoon movie that I have and I love is called Kirikou and the Sorceress. Okay? Kirikou and the Sorceress. I love that movie, and I'm quite sure that your children will love it as well. Another website that I found this website years ago, but while I was looking into this particular video, I found them again, and it's called Quali TV. It's spelled Q, no, not Q, sorry, KWELI.TV. KWELI.TV, Quali TV. And it's a global Black streaming platform. Okay. It's a Black streaming platform, Black owned, Black films, everything Black, Black on Black on Black, okay? They have films, they have documentaries, they have different series, kid shows, animation, they have history, and more, okay? So they have tons of African-centered cartoons on their streaming platform that you can introduce your kids to. This is one of the ways that you teach your kids Kemetic spirituality. Okay, through cartoons, that's how they learn. There's no reason that you should have Netflix and not have quality TV. There's no reason. You need to have quality TV in an African-centered household. Another thing you can do is African-centered schools. So if you can afford to put your children through an accredited African-centered school, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Even if you say that you can't afford it, I would challenge you to question that and figure out a way to afford it, because you really can't afford to not give your children an African-centered education. Okay? As Malcolm X told us, only a fool would let his enemy educate his children. It is very costly to let your enemy educate your children. Now, I don't have a list of African-centered schools here because you have to do that research based on your location. But I will give you an excellent online resource if you are homeschooling. Uh, sorry, Dr. Raketi Amen has the Institute for Self-Mastery. And if you don't know who Dr. Raketi Amen is, she is excellent. She is excellent. I would call her the mother of modern day Neteru. She is the grand master teacher of all of the grand master teachers of Neteru and Kemetic history. So she's the one who has taught most of the masters in Neteru. You need to know who she is, okay? And yeah, she has an online homeschooling curriculum at the Institute for Self-Mastery. Okay? She's also the creator of the Institute of Kemetic Philology. So if you want to raise your children in the Kemetic culture and to teach them Kemetic spirituality, these are great educational resources for you. Another way to teach your children Kemetic spirituality is through cultural events and holidays. So if you're a part of any Kemetic temple or organization, there will naturally be holidays. So there's holidays like the Feast of Sekhmet, you have Ancestors Day, you have Webren Pet, which is the opening of the new year. Many temples have annual events that you can bring your kids to, and they're going to look forward to these events every year. These events teach your children Kemetic spirituality. Okay, so visit your local cultural festivals and conferences. Okay, that's another way that you can incorporate cultural events and holidays. Cultural festivals and conferences. You want to go to Eventbrite and find these events in your city. One of the things I like actually about Columbus is that there's a lot of festivals here, a lot of festivals here. Okay, and some of the bigger cities will have a lot of cultural festivals, a lot of African-centered festivals. This is how you grow your children up in Kemetic spirituality, and teach them, even if you're still learning. Also, you want to take your children out in nature. Take your children out in nature. So, garden, go hiking, biking, swimming. Okay, get more in touch with nature. The more in touch your children are with nature, the more they will be in touch with their own divinity. So find local events or come up with your own events as a family where your kids can spend more time in nature. So you have things like apple picking and horseback riding. You all can visit the botanical gardens together or go on a nature walk. But make sure you are incorporating nature into your child's life very regularly. You can even sign up for event notifications with your local parks department. This is something that I do so that I get the notifications in my calendar when they have events. Okay, they're automatically going to populate so you can see where the events are, what they are, the details of it, and you always have something that you could take your kids to. Okay. So that is all I have for this video. If you would like to become a part of a Kemetic community where you can learn more about African spirituality and African holistic health, that is what we are doing in the Alchemy of Black Healing. It's not just the community, it is a guided journey for those of you who are committed to generational healing. You're going to heal yourself at the energetic level and at the ancestral level. It's not just an online library full of content. There is real inner work that you have to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay? The Alchemy of Black Healing is ground zero. So if you're tired of being a perpetual victim, get to work. The link is in the description of this video. And as of this video, the current price will only be available to 17 more people. We just launched 2 weeks ago, and I have a specific number of people who are going to join at this price. I have 17 spots left. Okay. It's not expensive. It's literally the cost of lunch. Okay, and we have our first group healing session on Monday, June 23rd. So click the link in the description of this video and tap in. And I'll see you in